Yep. Cool. All right. So we are going over our technology assessments, I believe. Yes, our technology presentations. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. So for my technology presentation, there we go. I decided to write about nuclear fusion reactors. So I think 2 semesters ago, I wrote a paper on this. So it's been about a year since I've been updated on the news about this, but it's relatively recent technology and should have some pretty cool outcomes. So nuclear fusion was discovered around the 1920s by Arthur Eddington, and the first experimental observation occurred in 1923. So basically, nuclear fusion is the complete opposite of nuclear fission, which is what we use today. So instead of dividing large atoms, fusion combines smaller ones um, to make larger ones, and this process generates a ton of energy with also without producing any waste or any real amount of waste. So for my values, I broke it down into the first large scale application of this technology was used with the hydrogen bomb. So similar to the fission, nuclear fission. I don't know if you watched Oppenheimer or not, but that was um, all happening around the same time as this. Um, and then until very recently, scientists were not able to produce and sustain a fusion reaction due to technological limitations. Because I think to sustain it, it's got to be like a million or so degrees. So it's just wicked hot. Um, and then nuclear fusion appears to be following the same path of its counterpart fission since it began with its use in explosives, but will end up as one of the most potent energy sources humans are able to utilize. And then super recently, I think back in 2022, some scientists were able to um, get a nuclear fusion reaction up and running and sustain it for a little bit. And during their research, they found that it produced the equivalent of 1 million times more energy than carbon based fuels would have had. And it didn't produce any substantial exhaust or nuclear waste. So then to break down the principles for nuclear fusion power production to occur, several points are required from the generator itself. So the fusible material must be contained within a magnetic field so that it does not come into contact with the walls of the generator. So this was like the huge technological thing that needed to happen. Since I said earlier, it's like millions of degrees hot. It really can't touch anything, so they kind of just suspend the fuel with magnetic fields. Um, and specific isotopes of hydrogen make fusion a lot easier. So those are probably going to need to be selected and then refined so that we have enough fuel basically to power these things. And then the generator must be able to convert the extremely high heat and or magnetic fields produced by the fusion reaction into usable electricity. So just similar to how nuclear fission heats up water and spins a turbine, there is some application for that. But another aspect that I found in my research of fusion is that it produces its own magnetic fields, which those can then be used to turn turbines as well. Um, and nuclear fusion can't go supercritical like fission. So there's no real threat of a nuclear meltdown like a Chernobyl or a 3 Mile Island. But it's still wicked hot within the generator. So there obviously needs to be some safety shutdown procedures for these types of generators. And then policy wise, fusion reactors are still under development, but I know several countries are working to create the first ones, and there's been some breakthroughs all across the world in that regard. So different nations are starting to look at policies regarding these energy generators. So first and foremost, reactors must only be operated by trained professionals. Um, Similar to nuclear fission, you're going to want to have constant systems monitoring, perform regular preventative maintenance, and they've already begun to do preventative maintenance on the ones that they're building now. And then, first and foremost, you want to prevent damage to the generator and the surrounding structure. So here's an image of current fusion reactor. I think this one is in South Korea. I think that's where that one's at. And that's kind of what it looks like on the inside. So on the right-hand picture, you can see the superheated plasma just kind of floating down there. And it's not touching the walls. So then I conducted an analysis of practices. So while nuclear fusion reactors are still under development, they have made significant advances in recent years. Just a couple of years ago, scientists sustained the first ever controlled fusion reaction. So as this technology progresses, it will see enthusiastic adoption by energy producers, regardless of ideology, since it's the ultimate clean energy source. Fusion produces magnitudes more energy than fossil fuels, while also producing next to no waste or pollution. The only byproducts are helium gas and a large amount of energy. So I'll open up this time for any questions.
I was just wondering if you knew like how many people it took to maintain a reactor.
So I think, I mean, it was a whole, what is it called? There's a whole branch of scientists that work on this,
Okay.
and I think at the time, I think well, the first sustained fusion reaction happened in, I believe, the UK, and that had a team of probably somewhere around 100 scientists. Um, but it wasn't like a large scale reactor like the one I showed you from Korea. It was just kind of like a smaller scale lab setup just to see if you could sustain it. But I'm assuming, you're going to need probably somewhere close to as many people to maintain this as you would a fission reactor.
All right. Yep, that was my only question then.
All right, cool. Thank you. And so then for the group interaction portion, so do you think the use of nuclear fusion reactors for energy production is a positive or negative use of fusion technology?
I think it's a positive use of technology
Yep.
because we'll be able to advance it and it'll constantly be getting better.
Yep. Yep. I agree. Do you believe that society will benefit from the implementation of this technology?
Oh yeah, I absolutely believe that it will, especially since there's less danger involved.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that as well. And then, do you have any further thoughts or questions regarding this stuff?
Not really that I can think of.
All right, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's the end.
All right. I have to request for sharing. There we go.
Oh, yes.
There we go. All right. Can you see that well?
Yep.
All right. So today I'm going to be presenting on autonomous vehicles. And so some background information. Autonomous vehicles navigate and operate without humans. So that means that they can drive wherever they need. So that means through cities or on like interstates and things like that, they can completely operate without humans. They use sensors, AI, and control systems to tell where other vehicles, other people, and like obstacles in the road could possibly be. They also use camera, radar, lidar, and GPS to like sense these different things. Now, the first instance of a fully autonomous vehicle was in 1984. That was Carnegie Mellon.
Hmm.
And they were they partnered with ALV projects, and that was the very first example. So some values, they're much safer than current vehicles. It's projected that accidents can be cut down by 30% within the next 10 years just by these vehicles. They're more efficient because they'll always be taking the best route to their location, and they're more accessible. So that means people in wheelchairs could potentially be able to just get in their car and ride around without having someone else drive them around. So, for example, my grandmother, she lost her leg to cancer.
Hmm.
So she's able to ride in her car without having to press the gas pedals or anything,
Oh, wow.
drive
That's
by
awesome.
itself. So, some principles, it'll ensure reliability and safety. It will always get you to your destination and with minimal risk. It will reduce emissions because usually they use battery instead of gasoline,
Hmm.
and also it'll be more accessible for elderly and the disabled communities.
Yep.
So some policies that are still being like created is who's going to be liable in case of accidents, because it's really not the driver's fault if the programming's wrong.
Hmm.
So they're still trying to figure that out. Data privacy for users. So like, how are they going to protect where you are at all times? And also, what are the regulations going to be for the vehicles before they are sold?
Hmm.
Because there could be many different things that could go wrong with them and cause many accidents.
Right.
So, current analysis of the practices, they are continuing to improve collision avoidance and emergency braking. And they are also monitoring the driver to make sure that they are able to take control if needed, if the system were to go down. So, in the future, we're going to try to figure out how self driving cars will react to unavoidable crashes, and also how we will handle the job displacement. So, like truck drivers and taxi drivers will be out of a job.
Right.
All right. So, this is the group interaction part. Should autonomous cars prioritize passenger safety over pedestrians? Do you think?
Oh. Nice. Oh, yeah, that's an easy question. Um, I guess, I don't know. I guess logistically, it would make sense to prioritize the driver's safety.
Yeah.
Um, I guess just because they, I have no idea. Um, I don't know. I guess it would make legal sense to prioritize the pedestrian safety, but then the uh, car provider would be held responsible for the death of the passenger. So I don't know. That's a good question. I guess it could go either way.
Yeah. So, actually, a couple months ago, there was a problem where a pedestrian fell in front of these self driving cars, and the car actually hit another car to avoid the pedestrian.
Cool.
So, they're trying to figure out which should actually be the best option.
Right.
I,
Yeah.
yeah. And how do you think we should handle the job displacement caused by self-driving technology?
That's another tough one, but I think I don't know. I guess the job displacement. Um, I'd probably see if they would be willing to move into fields in self-driving technology,
Yeah.
since it's still in the same vein of what they were doing.
Mhm.
But also on the other hand, I don't know how much um, taxi drivers are interested in um, like automation and robotics and all the technology that goes into that as a whole.
Yeah, yeah, that's like what I was thinking. So like you could offer them jobs in that field to kind of like improve the routes and stuff, pick up,
Hmm.
be more efficient. But I guess it'll come down to if they're willing to do that.
Right. Yeah.
All right. And then, do you have any questions?
Um, Not really. I don't think so.
All right.
Just one kind of, I don't know. I saw this in the news, and I don't know if you can speak to this, but they already have like an autonomous taxi service in California. I know in
Yes.
Los Angeles. Have you
Yep.
seen anything about that?
I saw the issues that they had a couple days ago.
Oh yeah.
It's, yeah,
Yep.
they started like driving in circles and causing problems.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some videos circulating of guys like ordering Ubers and then the Uber would pull up, but there wouldn't be a driver in it. So,
Yeah. There's
yeah, cool.
still some things that they have to figure out.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for presenting.
Yeah.
So I'll stop recording.